Hello friends, welcome back to another interesting tutorial, and that is ABAP CDS logic, validation and testing. So what is a core data service or CDS views? I don't think it does need any introduction nowadays. You guys, most of you I believe have been using through in your development projects quite often. In this tutorial, we'll basically cover a different aspect, and that is the logic validation that we have already pushed down to the DB layer to get a better optimization and performance benefits. So whether that logic is actually working fine or not, if it's properly constructed, right? Or is it creating any regression with the existing or maybe earlier logic which is working fine in production? Is it possible to create those kind of scenarios which is actually possible in only production server but not in development? How to create that scenario virtually within development system and make sure that logic whatever we'll write will work perfectly in production, right? So this technique will be actually discussing in this tutorial. That is the motivation of this particular tutorial. So not to waste much of time, let's head over to the data model concept, VDM concepts, and different layering technique to test the CDS logics and validate the logics. So subscribe my channel if you want to see this kind of tutorial and more if you have not subscribed yet, and don't forget to set the bell icon. So this is a very simple data model that I could think of, where the lower two one are the tables, normal database tables. One is the PO header, the other one is the PO item, and I have created a basic view called PO header, similarly a purchase order items, and finally I create a composite view on top of this both CDS view, and I'm calling it as an overall price, purchase order overall price. It's a composite view actually. So now I'll be adding a very simple logic to this item table as well to the overall so here you can see we have the purchase order item and quantity. So this price and quantity are the fields, actual fields, where the overall item price is a calculated one, and I'm using a simple calculation over here, that is a quantity multiplied by price. So this way it contains 100, the first item, and this is contains a 200. And also I have added a simple aggregation function called sum at the purchase order overall price composite view, and it will basically sum up these two values, 100 and 200, and it will basically get a 300 as the overall price at the header level, purchase order header view. That is the intention. So that is the very simple construct. So now let's see how to validate these logics through our ABAP unit test concept which talks about unit test option with a test double. Within this technique I can basically test on this single unit of CDS view. So that means, for the sake of the discussion, let's understand like this particular CDS view will test whether this logic is working or not. So for that, what we need to do, we need to create a virtual environment first. So we'll create a virtual environment, and now what will happen is we'll copy this particular CDS view within this virtual environment, and we are calling it CUT, means kind of a code under test, or in this particular context you can think about it's a CDS under test. Now the next action would be like to understand which are the immediate dependent object component or DOC. So here it is obvious that it depends on the PO header as well PO item. So we have to create a test double for these two CDS views. By the way, what is test double? So test double is nothing, sometimes it's also called stubbing. In my simple language I will call it as a faking of the data. Okay, so I'll create a fake PO header basic view within this virtual environment like this, as well as the PO item, and I have marked it as a fake. That means I will replenish this data PO header as well PO item with my own custom data, okay, own my kind of information that I'm interested. So manually I'll just fill in over there. How to do that, that will shortly see when we'll get into the hands-on section. But for the timing of thing, like this is a simple table, it will start behaving and it will have all the data filled in, which is done manual way. And obviously the logic what we have written, right, the calculation of the overall item price, that is not going to be considered because I have also filled in that overall item price field as well manually. So obviously next it will just take this data, it will just consider the data that we have filled in manually, to process its own logic, and finally it will give the outcome. And to be noted, this data availability and this kind of things, it's within this virtual environment. And if you just see the data in the actual back in HANA or whatever the database that you have, definitely that data will not be available. The scope of this data is only within this virtual environment, okay, that will create it. Now so this concept we are calling as unit test option. Now you will be asking like, hey, I have also written some logic in the PO item, which is kind of a multiplication with the item price and the item quantity. How to test that, right? So this is another technique, and that is called hierarchical test option, which you'll see now. For the hierarchical test option, the things are more flexible enough, and for example, here we can test both the overall price composite view logic as well as the item logic that we have written earlier. So for that same concept, we'll be start with a virtual environment first, then we'll pick the CUT for our testing, and this is the overall price, for example. And this time I'm thinking, let's test this logic as well. So I'll take this one as well as under code under test scope. Now for this one to get tested, the same rule applies, means to check the dependencies. So here PO item is the direct dependent object component for this series. So we have no option but to make this one stopped or faked. So I'll just keep it over here. And also this one PO header as well, PO header basic view, I can make either one as a fake one. For example, if I want to test this logic, I'll make this one as a faked, or maybe the if I don't want to test it any logic over here, then I'll directly make it faked. So either one can be pulled into. So for the demonstration purpose, I'm just showing both over here. One thing to be noted, only one of the out of this 3 path, because I have 2 paths over here, right? So from any path, only each node can be a single node can be considered here. So ideally, as a dependency against this particular final testing or code under test object, I cannot say like, hey, this one is dependent, this one is dependent. It's not possible. We'll see shortly when we'll do a hands-on. So I'll just take this one as a fake, as a direct dependency. By doing that, it will be automatically considered as code under test. And I'll consider in my demonstration only this one as a fake. So that way I'll make this one PO header basic view also under code under test. And my edit is actually connected with the ABAP trial server. You can definitely try out in your on-premise SAP system also, but you have to make sure your ABAP release is at least 7.51 innovation series service pack 00, because from that onwards that serious testing capability has been offered by SAP. But if you don't have that infrastructure, no worries, still you can practice it, you can experience how it works on the cloud, and how this ABAP editing tool can be linked to your trial system or trial ABAP trial account, HANA account. For that I have already created a video, and that I have given in the description link, so that you can check that out also if you want. Now let's quickly open that PPT and to understand like how. Let me just little bit side by side, let me keep it like this. So I have created just a moment. Yeah, I think now it is okay. So I have created 2 database tables, as I have earlier told. One is a document header as well as the item. Okay, so these 2 tables I have created over here. Fine. So next, just quickly check the CDS views. So for that we need to go to the core data service section, the data definition, the CDS view that I am using over here, which is this basic view. It doesn't have any logic, very simple projection kind of. And the other one is the item CDS view, and you see it has a logic. Quantity into price multiplied is basically the calculated column called overall item price. So this particular CDS view is nothing but that basic view one, which I built on top of this PO item table. So what left now is the overall price. Let's see that as well. So here I'm using this aggregation function sum, and I'm using an association to calculate the underlined line item data and put it under the overall header price. So that's all we discussed. So now to start creating, let's first with the simple test case that is called unit testing will check out, where I'll just test only this overall price. So for that you just need to select the CDS that we are interested, and this is the one. So right click on that, you will find something called ABAP test class. So click on this, it will open on wizard. I can put JetCL overall price test, calling it test class maybe, and you see the CDS entity under test is basically the overall price, which is nothing but this CUT. Okay, so next go to the next page. Now you see you have option to select this two as a dependent. You can select anyone as a dependent. Okay, but we know that for building up this overall price, we need both the underlined dependent object components or DOCs. So we have to select both one in this case, and you see the option test type I'm selecting is unit test, and shortly we'll check the hierarchical test option also, which we discussed theoretically. And here it shows the selected dependencies is the document composite, I mean this particular basic view, as well as this purchase order document item, which is this one. Okay, click on next. Now you can give method name. If you don't give it, that is also fine. It will automatically create. So I'm just writing overall item or overall price calculate, something like that, simple. Okay, and here is an option to fill up the data. So see, this is a purchase document number. You can put any values. So that means I can put 100, doesn't matter. That's the reason I told, if any scenario you want to replicate, which is not possible, maybe in development environment, is only there in production, still you can create the data of your own and you can try it out. So next is the description. Put anything called header, doesn't matter. Status, priority, that's all. And now in the purchase item, let's put something, the same document number I have to put, which I put 100, I believe. Yes, so same thing, I'm putting it over here, kind of a foreign key it will be used. Now it is called document item, so I'm putting 10 as a number. Description, let's say item 1. Vendor I don't need, price I need 100 USD. Quantity, let's say 2, and that's all. Now to add one more line, you can click this particular button. It will add, there is a bug, looks like. Okay, I'm not sure, it doesn't work well, so that creates sometimes issue. So what we'll do, ideally it is supposed to give only one line, but it's giving multiple lines, and I'm not sure why. Let's click on next and let's see what happens. Selecting the transport that I'm interested, and it will create a test class for us. Okay, fine. You see all the codes are auto generated. All the boilerplate codes are auto generated. Fantastic thing. We have to do nothing in case of writing a code. We'll do little bit only, and that we'll see. So first thing is, let's quickly check out this particular section called prepare test data, and you see whatever the data we entered for the purchase doc and purchase doc item. So as I said, let's create one more item over here by copying it. Ideally this thing could have been managed from the wizard, that's okay. So we'll put a price amount, let's say 200. Okay, and quantity, let's say 3, and I'm just saving it, this one. Now one more thing we have to do, and that is this particular section. We have to write something like CL ABAP unit assert, and we have to do certain checks, and I'll be using assert equal check, where I'll be putting expected as what will be the expected amount from this calculation perspective. So let's calculate manually 600 plus 200. So the expected amount, I'm thinking like it should return, if every logic works perfectly, it should give 800. Fine. And what is the actual value? Actual value will be just using this internal table. I'll explain, I'll walk you through this code, no need to worry about. So, and here I'm expecting only one record because only one purchase order I have. So only one record I'll be expecting, and it will have an overall price as a calculated field. And let's close the statement, right? So that way I'll assert, like, because if the actual value and my expected value both same, then my testing will be successful. Okay, so this is an test class being generated. Now let's see like how this test class actually constructed. Okay, so it has something called for testing important. So that means a test class, and this kind of class will never can be executed in production. And there is some boilerplate code, as you can see, class setup and class teardown. And interestingly, this is the thing which I was talking about, environment. Okay, that CDS test environment, that will be used, this interface will be used to create the environment. Okay, you have this setup. So before you test the class, it will basically see like, hey, this is my entity which I'm going to test, and I'll fill the data. I'll making this one stubbing or faking data that I'm doing. This is for my header, this is for my item, and finally the data is basically filled in that environment. Okay, so this data does not exist in the actual table. So let's see whether the actual table has what kind of data, because I'm not sure what type of data I have inserted. So let's see over here, open with data preview, and you see what is happening. Yeah, so I have certain data inside database table, and it's basically calculating based upon that, and the overall price it talks about 300. But in my test environment, I'm expecting this should be $800. Now to test it out, you have to click on the source code library, go to class, and this is the one we have created just now, right? Right click on that, and you have to run as ABAP unit test, and let's see what happens. Oh, it is not active, sorry. Let's active that first, otherwise it will not work, right? So let's quickly activate the code, and I think all put well. Document number, document item. Oh, sorry, we have to make this 120, my bad. I have copied it. Let's make it item 2, and looks like okay. Let's activate it. By the way, one more problem. That problem is, I told you, right? This CDS view, I have to stop it because the logic will not be working. And interestingly, we have a logic inside this particular CDS view, and that is called overall item price to be calculated. So in this particular testing scenario, we have to add that field as well, overall item price, and we have to manually fill it. So let's manually calculate this amount. Let's say it's 200, and same way copy and paste it, and it should be 600. Okay, I think all good now. I don't know why it didn't work. Anyway, activate this class. All activated. You can see now. Right click and run as test unit test. Let's see what happens. So this method will be tested. It's executing, and if anything failed, it will show there is a failure. You see, it's passed successfully, and overall price is matching with the expected results. So what would happen, let's say for make a failure case, let's say we are saying like I'm expecting somehow it's a 700. Okay, and activate this code and rerun this once again. and let's see what failure trace it gives. Awesome. You see, it's telling like expected amount is 700, but actually the system or CDS view found it as 800 because it's calculated this both 200 and 600 this amount, and it this logic actually executed. Or it may happen like if we change this CDS views, if we don't use sum, for example, right, and then also it will fail for sure. Okay, you can do this while you do your practice, I believe. Now we are ready for the next hands-on, which is a hands-on about the hierarchical test unit. Before we go to the hierarchical option, one thing probably you have noticed, and this is the select query. So select star from this particular overall price CDS view into some internal table. So this select query, when it will be executed, it will not be getting the data from the database. Rather, it will search the data within this environment. So that is the awesome capabilities, I would say. But how it behaves, we'll also debug it in the next section. Let's now create the hierarchical test class. For that, right click, go to the test class option, and in the wizard, let us put something like overall test, but this time let's put underscore h just to identify. You can write test class. So this time we'll switch the option from unit test to hierarchical test. Now you see the selection option gets changed. I can expand all, and this time I have a provision now to select the underlying database table also. So if I select both, I'm not allowed to, because I can only select select exactly one node in every tree path. So I cannot select both, either this one or this one. Select the underlying database table, and you just notice it, this particular CDS becomes green tick, and it shows in a kind of a this will be considered as for testing. And also select the header one, I mean for the document item, sorry. So in our journey, we are basically testing the item, the header CDS view, basic view rather, also the top level overall item price. Let's click on the next one, and again fill up the data quickly. So purchase order document, again put let's say 100 this time, description header, and for the item let's put this is the document, again put 100, purchase order item, that's a 10, description item 1, price 100, currency USD, and quantity 3, and I'm not going to add the another row because we found it doesn't work. So click on next, and now it will generate another new class, test class. This is a new one, it's generated. Okay, against this it will create a local test class against the global class name is underscore h. So if we go to the test class tab, you'll see your coding, same concept, but now it's changed over environment buildup. You see it is taking this overall price as kind of a entity as the overall price, but under the hood it says like these two tables will be the as a dependency list. So we have to make these two tables faked or starved. So let's go back to this section. So looks like header, this one, last time I did a mistake, so this time make sure we copy it properly. So it's purchase document, fine. Item, we have to make it 2, change it to item 2. Let's change the quantity, make it let's say 50 this time, right? So now everything looks like same, only thing is you need to make a little bit code change over here as per the last time we did. So assert equals expected, let's quickly count the amount. What we have to do, it's a 100 plus 300, it will be calculating But this time you see we are taking the underlying table, so obviously we are not adding up in overall item price. We don't need it because that exists in the CDS view layer. So it's 100 and 300, so basically 400 I'm supposed to get. Change it, doesn't matter, that's okay. So let's go back here and put 400, and the actual should be the same approach. Copy this one and put 1, and overall price product. Oh, we need to change, it's not a JavaScript. So yeah, fine. So that way our syntactically becomes correct. So now what we'll do, everything looks okay, and we can activate the code and see how it works now. Fine. So now if we test this underscore h, right click, with coverage and this unit test, we'll be expecting it will return 400. Yeah, it is returning 400. Okay, so let's see if by some means it's failing. This time we'll do a check about a explicit select query and make a debug to see how it works. So we'll be copying this one, and let's say we are going to put the this view name, right? So purchase stock. So let's purchase stock, and let's put it underscore header internal table, and let's make it data inline declaration, and also put another one, and that is called purchase stock item, I guess. So copy it and put item, and let's make it underscore item. Here as well put data, make it inline declaration. So now everything looks okay, I guess. Yeah, so then activate. So what we'll do this time, we'll debug it. Okay, so though we have not put any overall item price specifically, but I'm expecting when we'll do a selection from this item result, we'll be seeing that overall item price auto calculated. So put a breakpoint, let's set the first as well here, and to run it, right click again, coverage, ABAP unit test, click on this debug perspective. I'm expecting it will come. Yeah, so now it's 6 maybe. So prepare test data. So let's select from the actual test. So actual test result been picked up. If you check this out, you see the overall price calculated automatically. That's good. Let's run one more. So the result header is also picked. Whatever we entered, it doesn't much things here to check, but still just showing. And the last one is here, right? So the basic view for the item, and you see for the first one, it basically calculated the overall price. It will be little below, I guess. Yes, overall item price, you see 300, it's auto calculated based on the quantity and the line item price, 3 into 300. And similar way, obviously the other item gets also calculated. Quickly check that out as well. Yeah, overall item price 100 calculated. Fantastic. So that's way I can just run it up and go back to the ABAP perspective. So now this is my CDS table function. So this is the CDS table function which is implemented by AMDP methods, and let's go to this AMDP method, and you see I have just written certain logics just to calculate if the amount, if more than 300, then it's a pending, otherwise it's auto approved. Some sort of dummy logic I have just written, 2 extra logic, and I wanted to test this CDS, right? And if I just right click on this table function and go for this test class, it says the CDS table function is not supported. Okay, so it is only supports test double framework supports testing only for the CDS entity, not for the CDS table function. So just one limitation. Then one kind of a try to create an upper level of this CDS table function, and this is the one I created as an upper level of CDS table function, one level up, and I'm giving it as an upper level of the AMDP, where I'll be just adding this approval status, and let's see if now I can test it or not, how I can make it testable. So if I right click, I'd go for the test class, and if I just put anything, let's say HCL, let's say put H1 just for the demo, and see how it behaves for the upper layer. You see I have only the table function here, not underlined tables and all. So let's click on hierarchy. There as well, you see it doesn't allow to make this one tested by stopping the underlined leaf. So this is the limitations, and you cannot do that, but it allows to make any table function stopped. So that is also you get to know. That's all. So enter code base actually put into the GitHub link. You can try it out by cloning it. I hope you enjoyed this discussion, and thanks for watching. Share your feedback and try it out. Okay, hope you'll enjoy. Thanks again. We'll connect again in a different topic. Thank you.